Supported by Star Ghana and Infobox.
Right, in our very first story, former national youth organizer of the New Patriotic Party, Anthony Karbo, has emphatically denied the voice on a secretly recorded audio tape is his. He insists he has also not met with any person or group of persons on the agenda to destabilize the country. The voice on the tape is heard scheming to bring in macho men from outside the country to cause chaos and mayhem in the forthcoming general elections in December. The Laura MPP parliamentary candidate said although the voice on the tape sounds like his, it is not his voice, calling it a complete fabrication and concoction. Now we'll be going onto the phone lines to get to speak to a security expert on some of these tapes that have come up in recent times. But I have a copy of his statement here, and I'm going to run through just a few paragraphs. And the statement goes, "My attention has been drawn to an audio tape generated and is currently being circulated by a pro-NDC group research and advocacy platform in which voice planning chaos and mayhem in the run-up to the December general election is being attributed to me. I will like to take this opportunity to expressly state that although the voice on the tape sounds like mine, it is not me. This is a complete fabrication and concoction. I've not had any meeting with a person or group of persons where the agenda of that meeting is to destabilize this country." Now we have his voice. We're going to play you that voice shortly, and then we'll get onto the phone lines and do some analysis on it.
Macho guys. Now that's what I'm working on now. I'm meeting with all the bad boys in there. Some of them the NDC boys, some of these guys from Libya, some of the boys from what do you call it? These big boys from Togo. There are some guys who've come in from Benin and Liberia. We are meeting with Bujumbura. So I'm just trying to consolidate that at least by October, second week in October, I'm done with the whole country. You know, we want to consolidate all the bad boys, because what they are going to try to do is to try to instigate some fighting. I'm party people to the top, blah blah blah, but they don't have people. There's now, they see there is something where call people, MPP people cannot call anybody. You know, so we just want to focus on that one for the Ashanti region, Western region, Eastern region, all the 5 Akan regions. Those are our strongholds. We need to protect that one quickly. You know, and then also, you know, there are plans for the EC. Now I'm told that they are trying to weak batteries, because the verifications are going to be done on weak batteries. You know, so there's all sorts of warfare. And additionally to by October ending, or first week, second week in November, we need to start attacking particular national institutions like police, like the military, and the national security and BNI. We need to start attacking those institutions, make it known that we are aware they are going to be used in this election. And when you do that, I'm saying that, yeah, but all those are part of the issues. But you have to hit particular officers in the EC, Director of Operations, CID boss, you see, and this Amidi guy. So those are key. You go to the military, there are some of the brigadiers, I beg the brigadiers, you need to start attacking them. Secret meetings they held here. Even if it's not true, they'll come and it's part of the cycle. Rollins used it. By November last year, Rollins was talking about a meeting, you know, there was this thing about military people, you couldn't go into the military. All those were lies. Just to create the impression so that people can come to him. Say, oh, we think we can help you with it. There's a lot of information going on now about how things are running. So these are some of the things we are going to put in place. Because these guys, you know, they are really dangerous. I hear this Yaya Boni guy, that's a Benin president, on pen another or something.
All right, so you had the supposed voice of Anthony Karbo, but as I mentioned earlier on, he has come out to deny categorically that that was his voice. He says it sounds like his, but it's not. The Laura MPP parliamentary candidate said although the voice on the tape sounds like his, it is not his voice, calling it a complete fabrication and concoction. And he's demanding an unqualified apology from the NDC's research and advocacy group. Mr. Karbo has also thrown a challenge to the group to confirm where this meeting was held, who were the people in the meeting, and what the agenda was. The set tape adds to a few others that become the source of controversy in recent times. The last one being that of Yabwatingjan of the NDC. So can we expect a few more of these to emerge before the December polls? And how should we handle these tapes when they emerge? Emmanuel Bombande is the executive director of the West African Network for Peace Building, and he joins us live on the phone line right now for some reaction to this. Good evening to you, Mr. Bombande.
Hello, good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. And I want to quickly say I prefer to see my professional role as a peace building practitioner and not a security expert.
Okay, thank you very much, and that's well noted. Now, another tape, another allegation. How should we handle these tapes or purported leaked tapes when they come out?
Well, before you talk about how do we handle them, we have to collectively as a people frown on these tapes precisely because they create a certain psyche as part of the preparations for our elections, which is not good. And today, for example, the international media, particularly BBC, has picked this story. And what it does is to create an impression outside Ghana about how we are intolerant and how this country is going to elections in a very volatile situation, which might not necessarily be the case. And I think it's important that we are able to make that emphasis. And to that extent, all of us should be able to see how each of these tapes stand condemnable precisely because the very politicians who want political office are not prepared to play according to the rules of the game. Then what integrity and what credibility do they want to bring in offering themselves for public service?
Now, Mr. Bombande, yes. If you say we should frown upon these tapes, what exactly do you mean? Are you suggesting that we should condemn the broadcast of the tapes, or we should condemn the people who put together the tapes?
Well, first of all, it is more about the people who put together the tape. And that is why at this stage we are not worried about a verification system. Well, for those who have acknowledged, owned up, we should accept their faults and hope that they will never do that. For those who are not acknowledging, let's not worry too much about whether or not the verification is the issue. But we are worried about the fact that whichever way you look at it, these tips were put together. And to that extent, look at what the tips portend to portray. Bringing people inside our country to create destabilization. Do we know what that means? And do we look at the examples of our neighbor Cote d'Ivoire that since 2002, they've never come out of the conflict that they have gone into? And what does it mean for Ghana when the politicians who want to serve as leaders?
Fine, Mr. Bombande,
insinuations.
Sorry to catch you in there, but that is to acknowledge, or that is to suggest that whatever has been said on the tape is actually something that somebody is planning. For now, Mr. Karbo, who is said to be on the tape, has denied that it is his voice.
Well, there you go into another level altogether, because there you are going into the process of authentication of whether or not the voice is his. But that does not mean the damage that I am referring to in this conversation with you has not happened. So let's make the two clear for our understanding and for our viewers to appreciate. The authentication is one thing, and whether or not it is his voice, it is now for the matter of the security agencies. But the audio creates that psyche, which is damaging as part of the preparations for our elections, and I want to underline that.
All right. Now, so certainly what you're saying that these things are threatening the atmosphere ahead of the elections, and you're expecting the security agencies to pick this up. But in the past, the reaction to some of these tapes haven't been the best, or have they been the best to you?
Yeah, thank you for this question. You see, what now begins to happen is that the lenses with which the security agents then operate now seeks to explore whether in the tape they are able to exactly lay their finger on how what was said violates our law in terms of its offensiveness, and to that extent, does it merit prosecution? And it's important for us to be able to distinguish the two. So a tape can be very insightful and very damaging to the preparation of our election, and yet the security agencies will not be able to find a particular line in the tape that will require prosecution. So in the current case of Anthony Karbo, let's imagine that it is authenticated. Whether or not they will be able to hold him specifically to have violated the law, and for that matter, he should be sanctioned. It's a different matter altogether. And that is now in the realm of the security agencies that you and I are not able to provide the expertise that is required, precisely because there are processes, including even forensic kind of authentication of the voice, that we are not able to determine.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Emmanuel Bombande, he prefers to be known as a peace builder, a peace building activist. Thank you very much for your time. And he was reacting to the supposed leaked tape on which the former National Youth Organizer of the MPP is alleged, Anthony Karbo is alleged to have been making some remarks. Now, Anthony Karbo has come out to categorically deny that that is his voice. We're moving on to other stories now. And the Deputy Communications Director of the National Democratic Party, NDP, Hilarious Abiu, has indicated that the party will go to court tomorrow to contest the grounds on which it was disqualified by the EC from contesting the December elections. The NDP was last Thursday disqualified by the Electoral Commission from contesting in the 2012 general elections, as they had major errors on their forms and could not meet the deadline to rectify them.
In a press release on Tuesday, NDP claimed it has uncovered some dubious moves which they are ready to release to the public.
We have a number of tape recordings, as clear evidence of some political parties trying very hard to get our parliamentary candidates to defect, to other political parties, which is something we are going to put out in the coming days, so that everybody gets to know that indeed some of these things are not just mere speculations, but they're actually real things that are happening on the ground. And for us, that only empowers us, in fact strengthens our resolve to make sure that the NDP comes into effect to deal with some of these corrupt activities that have become the order of the day.
The Deputy Director of Communications, Dr. Hilarious Abiu, also refuted allegations that the flag bearer of the party was disqualified by the Electoral Commission for non-payment of taxes.
Part of the requirements before you file as a candidate included the fact that you need a tax clearance certificate. And the authority that is mandated to issue these out is the Ghana Revenue Authority, then Internal Revenue Service. And as we speak, we can say authoritatively that she has received that tax clearance certificate. So indeed, if the revenue agencies has cleared her, for paying all the requisite taxes that are needed, I am at a loss as to why somebody, particularly a newspaper, will want to go and put that out publicly that indeed she hasn't paid her taxes.
He added the party has officially written to the Electoral Commission to give the EC the opportunity to correct the mistake it made in dismissing the NDP from participating in the race.
We had given the Electoral Commission 24 hours within which we think that they needed to respond, or they needed to invite us for some discussions on the subject matter. And I'm sure that 24 hours will end by close of day today, working day today. So barring any eventuality, I think that latest by tomorrow morning, we should be clear to be able to go to the courts if we don't get anything from the Electoral Commission.
But is the NDP ready to throw its weight behind the mother party, NDC, if it finally loses its chance to field its presidential candidate, Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, in the December polls?
We have said several times that we take deep inspiration from the former President Jerry John Rawlings. And he has indicated that even he himself, being the founder of the NDC, he is going to throw his weight behind any candidate irrespective of the political platform he mounts. Once he gets that high credibility and high moral grounds, he will throw his weight behind the person. And I think that is what is going to inform our position as to whether we are going to throw our weight behind the NDC or any other political party.
The National Democratic Party says it will continue with its political campaign and programs to support its 178 parliamentary aspirants contesting the December 2012 elections.
Now, policy analyst with Money Ghana, Kofi Bentil, has urged the public to desist from calling the Electoral Commission corrupt. He says, though 2 of its officers have been implicated in bribery and corruption allegations, it is unfair to judge the whole commission.
Director of Elections Kofi Asumeni and Asante Kisi, Director in charge of logistics both at the Electoral Commission, were recently arrested for allegedly taking 1,600 Ghana cedis bribe from the founder and leader of the New Vision Party, Prophet Daniel Nkansa. Unable to clear him as a flag bearer for the December elections, the presidential aspirant demanded his money back, and at the point of returning the money, Kofi Asumeni and his accomplice Asante Kisi were nabbed by the police. Speaking to Joy News on the matter, policy analyst Kofi Bentil reckoned most state institutions are not perfect.
I really don't think we should read too much meaning into the arrest of those 2 people who are alleged to have collected bribes. Because let's agree that our institutions are not perfect. Okay, and if 2 individuals within the system are bad nuts, we should not use that and generalize it across the institution. But that being said, I think it raises an issue, and the issue is this: how much of that is pervasive in the EC? Okay, how many individuals are doing that? And I think the Electoral Commissioner must have an interest in finding out how many of his people are engaging in these acts. 2 people allegedly taking bribe in the EC does not mean the EC is a corrupt institution.
He, however, called for an audit into the activities of the Electoral Commission.
When they tried to audit the EC, okay, all kinds of things were said to the effect that as we speak right now, we are not sure who audits the EC. And here is an institution which is an institution of state, paid from taxpayer money. We take loans to resource it, donors resource it, millions of dollars go through there, and nobody is sure how that money is applied. Is the EC really an upstanding organization? They must not be subject to political interference, but they must be subject to auditing. And I think that is a question that we have to answer maybe right after this election.
Meanwhile, the Greater Accra Regional Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Freeman Tete, has explained that even though the EC officials returned the set money, it has been taken in as exhibit for the alleged crime.
What we want to establish is whether they demanded the money, whether they received those inducements. If it is established that they've received the money and they've returned the money, it hasn't changed anything at all. The 2 EC officials cited has questions to answer. And then the leader of the party as well, we extended the invitation to him. He did promise, that is Prophet Daniel Nkansa. He did promise showing up, but as he has not done that as yet, so we are still giving him some time. If he fails to honor the invitation, then we'll apply the law strictly. There are procedures that we adopt to bring them on board. The investigation will indicate the next line of action the police should take.
They were arrested together with the General Secretary of the party, Daniel Nkansa Jr., and a taxi driver, Sapong. They were later granted bail. At the time of our visit to the police station today, none of the suspects had reported.
In other news, the National Council on Persons with Disabilities has expressed huge disappointment about political parties' manifestos which have not captured any issue on persons with disabilities. The Chief Executive of the National Council on Persons with Disabilities, Max Varden, raised the concern about the continued neglect of persons with disabilities at the roundtable discussion of the NCCA.
Persons with disabilities constitute about 20% of the country's total population. The group comprising the blind and the physically disabled persons are most often neglected and regarded as unproductive and incapable of contributing positively to the society. Even though Ghana's Disability Act 2006, Act 715, was rectified in Parliament in June 2006, gives the legal framework to enable persons with disabilities to participate in mainstream society. The group feels they have been totally left out in major decision-making programs. At the roundtable discussion of the NCCE, the Chief Executive, Max Verdon, expressed disappointment with manifestos of the major political parties failing to capture the needs of persons with disabilities.
I haven't heard any very particular provisions made for persons with disability. This community is 20% of the country's population. As such, it is a very significant portion. None of the presentations we've heard this morning have included those provisions within the ambit of their delivery.
But the political parties say issues raised in their manifestos cover all persons, including those with disabilities.
In a forum like this, when we talk in generality. But if you aspire to improve the health sector or the health of the people of this country, it includes necessarily the 20% who are disabled or are challenged, whether it is intellectually or physically or whatever.
Set aside 2% of the district assemblies a common fund to address the challenges that people who live with all forms of disability face. And that is being implemented. As a Social Democratic Party, they are our natural allies.
The Council for Persons with Disabilities called on all stakeholders to make efforts in building an inclusive society where the contribution of persons with disabilities to the national development is valued.
You're watching Joy News at 8 here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV, and the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee is very disappointed and unhappy with the Attorney General. It has to do with his refusal to honor an invitation. We have that coming up in the bulletin. Stay tuned.